Alright, and for the next part of the course, we're going to be creating a map from scratch. It's going to be very bare bones, but we're doing this so that you can learn how to get the essentials done and get a map made that you can play right away. So, the first step is in the main menu, like when you first open it from your folder. As you can see, we have our example mod that we were just in a moment ago. We're going to go to create a new mod and do, again, scenario, a handcrafted map. Scenario name, we're going to call this Scratch. And display name, Scratch. We might change that later. And you can start with a completely empty scenario, but I highly recommend that you create a template one. So if you do create a new handcrafted or create a new crafted scenario using a template as a starting point and do 2, which is the amount of players it has, and go to gray block, this is just going to be a very simple starting point for you. So we have all this set up. We're going to go to next, like scratch map, and choose where to save. Again, I'm going to save mine in my mod folder and do finish, and you will load up into a extremely simple gray block map. Alright, now that we're in our gray block map, I'm going to readjust these really quickly, get them out of the way, and hit pause. And as you can see, we have a extremely simple gray block map with a simple grid texture on it. And this is what your scene is going to look like before you start putting down textures and roads and objects. It's just going to be this simple looking thing with these gameplay elements here. So the first thing to do to make sure that your map is playable is to make sure that you have starting positions. If you're starting from a template, like I highly recommend you should, you already should have the correct amount of starting positions. So 1 for player 1, 1 for player 2. This is your entry point, so this is where vehicles will spawn from out of map, like if you're using a ability. This is your starting territory, so this defines your home base territory, just like you would define your, say, strategic point territories. Now, as you might know, victory points alone do not have territories assigned to them. We can take a look at the territory map by navigating up here and finding the Select Territory Map icon. Click on that, and as you can see, right now it's basically just red versus blue. So this is the starting position from this object right here, and this object right here is giving this starting position in this area. Now, if we want to add some points to our map to make it so that we can capture territories, we can set our default parent to the territory points folder, set as default parent, go down to the object browser, go to EBPs, gameplay, strategic points, and here you'll find all the strategic points that you can use and capture. So we're just going to put down some super simple strategic points. So we'll just add one right there, and one right there. And while we're at it, we're also going to move these back a bit, just to give us some space. And then move these over a bit. So now we have territories, at least more than just the starting position territories. So if we again go back up to our territory map, click on that, we can click on the Initialize Voronoi button up in the Properties panel, and this will factor in these two strategic points that we just added. So now you can see that we have our starting position area, the first point area, and the second point area, and then this team's starting position area. And we can change this and manipulate it by clicking on this eyedropper tool over here and clicking in the area that we want to manipulate. So we want to change this area a little bit, so we just eyedropped on this light blue color. And now if we hold left click, we can paint in the areas of our map. And if you want to add more areas, you can go ahead and add them and go back up to your territory map. And you could just do initialize Voronoi all over again, and that will reset all your changes. So this will go away and it'll add these two new positions. Or you can just click on the add new territories button to quickly add in some areas here so that you can paint them in by hand. And just like strategic points, you can also add victory points. And now you'll have 4 victory points instead of the 3. Another thing you might want to consider adding to your map are bunker markers, which you can find in the EBP's gameplay folder. Find it right here, bunker marker. Right click in the world and add it to your world. And the way to assign this to a player, because right now this will, I believe, shoot at nobody because it's not connected to any team. So if you go to the properties panel up here, you can see owner, and you want to set the owner to whichever player this is that you're placing it for. So for this one, it would be player 1. And now in game, this bunker will belong to this player. And you can repeat the same process for the other side for their bunker as well. So add that in, rotate it a bit, and owner, we're going to do player 2. If you want to increase the amount of players that can use your map, you can manually add starting positions by going to the EBP's gameplay starting position folder, finding this one, right-clicking on it somewhere in the world, and now you have 2 players on the side. You want to set the owner again to player 3. So now this side will be these 2 players, player 1 and player 3. And we can do the same thing over here, but make this one player 4. And now this map is a 4-player map instead of a 2-player map. Quick note that if you have added an extra player location like I have for player 3 and player 4, you have to, as well as assign the player over here in the properties panel, you also have to unlock the player slot by scrolling down over here, going to the players panel, and unlocking it. So status closed, you want to go to open. And player 3 belongs to team 1, player 4 is open and belongs to team 2. Next thing we're going to take a look at is the interactivity map. So go ahead and click on that up here. And this is where you can paint in the playable area and the basically the area of the map that players will be able to interact with. So anywhere you paint will be an area that will basically become null for the map. Players will not be able to move here. Territory points won't, like their territories won't be able to reach in here. So this is going to be a no-go zone. And that's using the interactivity map. Also, right now, I will just showcase this really quickly. Like I was explaining earlier, default maps have no fog of war. So even though I clicked on the fog of war button up here and I'm dragging my mouse through, there's no fog of war. So to fix that, we're going to import a new atmosphere. Earlier in the first part of the course, we exported one from our example map. we're just going to import that really quickly. So go to your atmosphere section, click on default, right click on it, go all the way to the bottom to load atmosphere presets, and then you're going to load wherever you saved that atmosphere preset from before. So I have mine again here in my mods folder. Just going to double click on that, click on all, OK, and now the lighting will change by quite a lot, but we can always change that later. But the important thing is that we now have fog of war. So that's an important step. Remember to import a preset, because otherwise you won't have this. And then of course you can change from there. Alright, so now that we've got all of the major building blocks of our map in here, we've got our starting territory, starting position, map entry point, and a bunker marker, as well as the needed victory points and strategic points, complete with territories. So your map should be completely playable by now. You can regenerate up here to regenerate everything, including collision. And that should be pretty much it. You're free to build your mod up here. Go to build, build mod, and it's built. And I didn't do any of the stuff over here, so if you watch the other video, make sure that you you click on the minimap stuff. But we're gonna go check out our little bare bones map that we just made. And here in Company of Heroes 3, if we go to Skirmish, Start Skirmish, we can now see that we have our scratch map loaded with the new player added on both sides, and victory points, strategic points, and all. Alright, now we're in our little scratch map with our AI companion over here, with strategic points that are capturable, as well as victory points and bunkers. And these are the basics for setting up a map, getting it playable so that you can have fun on it and have it work.